Here he is. Hello, Josh.
Hey Arjun,
Hey, man, how you doing?
doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So this is the RFP. This is the Righteous Finance podcast, and the reason that I wanted to make this is because like money affects every single part of our life. I know that you have a blog, you have a website, and you write about like money, health, relationships, and one other thing that you write about. What's the fourth thing that you write about?
Business.
Business. Yeah, and money like affects all of that stuff, and I've always been very intrigued by that question and how money plays into our lives that way. So I have with me today Joshua Krafchick, and he is a tax advisor, a financial advisor, a money manager, a wealth manager, an inventor, a 401k manager, a speaker, and a millennial. Whew.
I'm a big slacker, man.
And a slacker. So tell me a little bit about that your what you call yourself, your titles. Like how did you get to become those things?
It's really, Arjun, just from experience. Starting out of school, we all seem to get jobs at big faceless organizations, come out with all this energy, ready to take over the world, share our ideas, and make a difference in the world. And within the first month, you realize no one cares about your ideas. No one cares about you. They just look at you at the new young person at the company that hasn't done anything. So, just through experience, I've seen lots of problems with the way money is managed. And by dedicating my life to educating people on the best ways to grow their wealth, these are just none of this I like ever envisioned to learn about. I just learned about it and realized like, hey, I'm good at it, so might as well just do it.
Wow, that's interesting, man. I kind of agree with you there. I kind of see the same thing on the big faceless organization. Nobody seems to really care. You end up being kind of like a cog in the system. Did you start off, I think you started off in the financial industry, right?
Yeah, so I started off in the financial industry. I got my degree in actuarial science, so I actually got my first position with a company that had an actuarial department. And so I was like, all right, I got my foot in the door. I got the job. That's the hard part. Now I just got to find the right person to connect me to continue my journey into actuarial science. And they told me I would have to do my current position for a year
Okay.
before I could transfer. And I was like, well, why can't we have introductions now? Like, why can't I start building relationships? I'm like, no, you have to wait a year. I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like, that's just time wasted. And I just didn't want to wait. So I quit that job very quickly.
Okay.
I think I lasted 3 months at my first job.
Oh, amazing. Is that the one that you were making, because you wrote a post about why you left your $150,000 job? Is that the one where you were making 150K?
No. So out of school, my first salary was 35,000. And then I went to a competitor and started that new job. So within 6 months, I went from making 35 to 40,000. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I got a
Okay.
new job, plus I got a raise. That's a win. And within the first 8 months of being there, it was a sales position. I didn't realize that being in finance is a sales job. And
Yeah.
most of the people that are in it don't know anything about managing money. They're just salespeople. So I knew nothing about sales, but I went from the lowest position, making $40,000, up to the highest position within 8 months. My base salary went from 40,000 to over 60,000. And then my first
Wow.
bonus was close to $20,000 once I got that highest position. So within a year, I went from making 35,000 to just below 80,000, and then the next year I did well over 150,000 dollars pretty easily.
Wow. So you went from 40 coming into the company to making 150 in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and I was like, okay, well, I'm performing well. I'm doing the job. I'm exceeding the expectation, so I should be rewarded. But after doing that job for 3 years, I realized there was no more money to make. There was no more upward movement. I was just stuck in a job that I was good at. And I realized that I needed to get out, regardless of how much money I was making. There was nothing more to accomplish. So if there was nothing more to accomplish, I had no reason to stay. And that's when I decided to leave.
So most people would say, and I think like a lot of parents, if their kids have a job, they have a good job out of college, or making a buttload of money, like you were, especially at this very young age, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're crazy to leave that kind of job. Just stay there and rake it in." But you saw it a little bit differently. How did you like think about? How did you make that decision that there's nothing more for me here? And like, how did you know that to say, "Hey, I'm going to leave it and do my own thing"?
I mean, I looked at it as I just had to pry myself out of bed every morning just to go to a job. It was no longer a challenge. And it's not like it's crazy that we live in a world where you can be 21 years old, you can be the best football player or the best golfer in the world, and you start making millions of dollars. But for people that aren't athletes, if you're the best of the world at what you do at 21, society makes you pay your dues. And I thought to myself, well, I feel like I'm really good at this, so why should I have to wait for someone else to give me permission to break out into that next level?
Okay.
So that's when I was like, I need to get out. So I started applying to independent financial firms in my area, and then I finally found one that would accept me. And I actually purchased part of the business. I bought equity in the firm, so from day one, I had skin in the game.
Okay. Right on. And how's that going? Are you still with that firm?
No, I left that firm March of 2019, so I was there from 2017 to 2019. I just found myself doing everything to bring in business, and no one wanted to help me. And it was my idea that I was joining a team because I believe in teamwork and working together to build something. And I just found myself doing all the work and not reaping any reward. So I decided I needed to make a change. But the good part about that situation was I did partner with a CPA, so I learned about taxes, got my tax designation. So that's just something else I can differentiate myself from the mass amount of financial professionals that are out there that may be reaching out to you on the phone or on LinkedIn, blowing you up like, hey, you should invest with me.
Yeah.
And they do things that don't work. And it's just crazy that people still think that that's the way they get business.
Yeah. So now you're running a firm called 369 Financial. And one of the questions that I was going to ask you was what makes that different?
Yeah, so 369 Financial is a what's called a registered investment advisor. So that's different from a lot of the big faceless organizations because they're brokers and dealers, meaning it's kind of like a big casino. Like, can you win at playing blackjack at the casino? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're winning, the casino's still winning. And if you're losing, the casino's winning more. So by separating ourselves from those big faceless organizations is with me, every person that invests with us, I'm invested in each of one of them as well. So if you decided to invest with me, when your account does better, I do better. If your account does worse, I do worse. So that gives me the motivation to ensure when a coronavirus comes around and the markets drop by, I don't know what, 30% or more, that I know what I'm doing to capitalize on those opportunities, as well as to put people in a position where those sort of valleys aren't as dreadful to go through.
So you only make money if your clients, like let's say I invest with you, right? and you're managing my portfolio, you're only going to make, you're going to make a certain percentage of the assets that I have with you? Or how does that
Yes.
work exactly?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you lose money, I lose money. And if you go to a job and you expect a paycheck every 2 weeks, just because you don't perform well doesn't mean your paycheck's going to change. But being on the business side, it's a little bit different. Being on, on the entrepreneurial side of things, my paycheck's dependent on my performance, which I like more than just
Yeah.
going to a job and collecting a paycheck and knowing what I'm going to get, because that puts me into a world where there's no limits.
So can you kind of give a, for the people that don't know, can you kind of give like a difference between the way that you do it, your model, how you get paid and how your clients see success versus like the other ones that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a corporation, essentially the people that work there, it's not their ideas on how to invest, it's the company's idea on how to invest. And when a company gets so large, it's hard to have that custom, touch that we're going to bring to the table. So we can provide a custom tailored portfolio to meet the needs of each individual person. Just because we're not large, we're able to still do that. Most companies are going to invest you into mutual funds. Most companies are going to invest you into exchange traded funds because it's easy and it's simple, and it keeps them in the on the good list and off the naughty list with the
Yeah.
regulators.
Match the market.
However, mutual funds is something like people in the 1920s invested in, and we're in 2020. Exchange traded funds came along because they're low cost, and Warren Buffett has been quoted, which is misquote, that you should just invest in the index because you're never going to beat the market. But if you listen to what he actually says, is he talks about, if you want to be ignorant, invest in the S&P 500, meaning if you don't want to be educated, if you just want to be like a cog in the system, as you said earlier. But if you're looking to bring an intensity to the game, then diversification is a huge mistake.
Interesting. So that's fake news, what he said. Where I've heard that before. Everybody's quoting him like, when he
Well, I mean,
dies, his
Warren
wife is
Buffett,
going
how
to
many
just invest
companies does
in,
he own, and how many companies does he own in the S&P 500?
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I bet he owns at least 5. So, I mean, anytime someone buys the index, that helps his companies. It's a lot easier to buy an index of 500 companies than for me to go out and decide, hey, I'm going to buy Berkshire Hathaway. It just
So,
increases the odds.
so is that a safe bet, investing in the index? Is that one of the safest
Yeah, if you want
investments
to
you can
just do
make?
as good as everyone else, invest in the index fund.
Be average, make it safe.
Yeah, but if you're looking to be in the top 1%, do you think Mark Cuban or Richard Branson invest in the S&P 500?
I don't know. They might. I'm sure they have
Maybe,
some portion of their money in there, but these,
not all.
most of their investments are going to be in other things, I would imagine, like in their businesses or in themselves.
Right, and that separates investors. Investors invest into good ideas versus entrepreneurs create new ideas for people to invest in.
Hmm.
Most people aren't going to be able to create billion-dollar companies. It's just highly unlikely. Obviously, you can look at the stats. It's not very likely to happen.
Yeah.
But as far as investing our money, every single person should be able to invest their money in the same way that billion-dollar endowments invest their money, because we have access to all of the information, but finding the right information is extremely difficult since we're not taught this in school.
So big schools like Harvard and Yale, they use the same kind of investment strategy that you do.
Yeah, so there's a book called Life Cycle Investing. The endowment manager for Yale is David Swenson, and he uses a strategy called life cycle investing. So, life cycle investing argues that as an individual person, until you get into your 50s, mid to upper 50s, you should be minimum invested in nothing but stock market.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, once your assets grow, once you become a millionaire, then it doesn't make sense to be so concentrated. You want to move from more of a growth strategy into more a passive income, dividend paying portfolio. That's just what makes sense.
Okay.
Just because if I invest $1,000 today and it goes down to 800, that's a lot less painful than my million going to 800,000.
So you get to a point and then, that's your growth point, and then you're concerned more with like sustaining it and making sure that that supports your lifestyle.
Yeah. So life cycle investing allows us to increase our nest egg up to 50%, which is way easier than increasing our savings by 50% just because we
Hmm.
love spending money so much.
Hmm. And is that what time diversification is?
Yeah, so time diversification is diversifying over multiple periods. So most people only talk about asset diversification, buy stocks, buy cryptocurrency, buy real estate, buy
Yeah.
gold, buy silver.
Right.
But if you invest over time, you're giving yourself more of an opportunity to grow your wealth, which is one of the main reasons people have 401ks where they automatically put money away. That account, most of the time when I was working at one of the large corporations, I would always see that account would always pretty much outperform someone's IRA that they weren't contributing to.
Hmm.
Because by focusing on time, it allows us to take advantage of fluctuations in the market, which is funny because we're taught that volatility and risk is bad. But if you use it correctly, it's another tool that we can use to increase our wealth.
Okay, interesting. So can you give me an example of what time diversification, like how you would play that into somebody's portfolio?
Yeah. So let's just say you had $1,500 you wanted to invest into ABC stock. Most people would just say, okay, let's take 1,500, let's buy it. You're young. Um, you have a long time, might as well invest it all now. But taking it further, um, going back, I own 369 Financial. We can break it into 3, 6, or 9 time periods. So we can break $1,500 into 3 500 purchases. So 500, 500, 500.
Okay.
If we double that to 6, we do 250, 250, 250. And if we wanted to go even deeper, we can break that into 9 different buy periods of 125. Just because in the short run, especially with new investors, it's scary no matter what. Like when you're buying a house, interest rates are always changing. The market's always moving. But like once you get into the game, you're like, the market goes down 30%. You don't even like blink. You just look like at your bank account, you're like, how much should I throw in?
Yeah.
And that when you change your mindset to just like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm getting everything at a discount. I can leverage you can see your portfolio and you see which positions went down the most and you can re-add to those. You can reload. So that's the way that we view things. And that's a little bit into the 369 strategy. I came up with a strategy from other smart people. Like these aren't all of my ideas. Just like anything, I took it from Nikola Tesla's code. 369 are the magic numbers of the universe.
Right.
Also, 369 has meaning, stands for growth, family, philanthropy, and that's something I want my business to stand for. If I was a vain person, I would have just named it Josh Krafchick Financial, just like
Hmm.
you have Charles Schwab,
Right.
Merrill Lynch, um, all those companies. What's the other one? Fisher
Fisher
Investments. Have you seen
Investments.
that one?
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's like completely new? They're maybe they don't know what to invest in. They're trying to find the best thing to invest in. Like somebody who's just starting out, what advice would you give them to like make the right decisions from the very start?
You have two choices. You can be a cheap ass and just do it on your own, which that's what most people do. It's like, why should I pay for advice? Everything's on the internet,
Right.
which is the way I did it. And with that comes a lot of pain. And most people, what happens is they invest in the market, they experience a bunch of pain, and then they never invest ever again. They're like, yeah, this doesn't work. I'm out. Or the second option is you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I don't know anything about this. I need help. I should hire help. because if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what separates the 1% from the rest of society. The 1% is willing to take advice and think differently rather than, as Benjamin Graham said, the investor's worst enemy is likely to be himself, something along those lines. No, I mean, like even me,
I think that's
I
true for a
use
lot of things,
tools.
not just investing, but like almost
Yeah, I
everything
mean,
in
just in
life.
life, like, I play golf, I take lessons, I've hired mental coaches to help me with golf.
Mhm.
In investing, I have tools that I use and trust that help me make decisions rather than if I'm making all the decisions on myself, I'm that's a strategy setting you up for failure.
Why do you think so many people, especially millennials, I think this is a thing that afflicts millennials a lot. Why do you think that they have this very DIY mindset? And if there's anything that they need to figure out, we'll just go onto Google, do some research for 5 minutes about it, and then now we're all of a sudden experts. Why do you think that happens so much? I'm definitely guilty of that, and I've done that a lot in the past, and still do with some things.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
It comes from this being the smartest generation ever in terms of testing and college. College is the new high school. Like everyone's going to college. Like there's universities I didn't get accepted to that if I would have grown up in a different area, I would have gone into no problem.
Oh,
Like if my test scores and my like GPA was like 50 years ago, I probably would have gone to like Princeton, Harvard, Yale, like some Ivy League school. But I didn't because there's so much competition now. And it's the same thing with information. There's so much competition on the internet. It decreases your chances of finding what the correct strategies are, especially if you go with companies such as Betterment, M1 Finance. They
mm-hmm.
ask you about 3 to 5 questions
Yeah,
and they spit out a portfolio.
it's customized.
Yeah, that's customized. But when I signed up for it actually, and it told me I needed to invest in municipal bonds.
Okay.
And municipal bonds, unless you're in the 25% tax bracket or higher, don't make sense. And I'm not in the 25% tax bracket. So
Are you in a higher bracket or lower?
I'm much lower. I haven't been making much money since I left corporate America, but it has all been worth it. You just have to accept that if you spend money and you're putting into the right resources, that eventually you will get the return out of it. Um, and that's something else. People are scared to like spend money on valuable things, but will spend money on materialistic things, no problem.
Right. So, but where do you think that comes from? This like idea that millennials have that we can do everything on our own. We've gone to college. We have all these fancy degrees and titles and that kind of stuff. So we're like smart, right? I don't know if I agree with you that we're smart. I think we might be one of the dumbest generations that thinks
Well,
that they're really
maybe book
smart, and
smart.
that's even more dangerous, right? Because then you like, oh no, I can figure this out. And I've had that before. Like somebody will tell me something, and then I'll be like, no, that's not right, and so on and so forth. But why do you think that we have this weird dynamic where we feel like we can figure everything out on our own? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's, you know, from personal experience, it's wanting to be independent, want to make our own decisions, like not listening to our parents, which parents can
Rebellion.
give good advice, but they can also give bad advice. So it's knowing to figure out what's bad advice and what's good advice.
Yeah.
Um, there's a study out there. It was in Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote that in order to become an expert in something, it takes 10,000 hours. But someone broke that down as if you want to learn a skill, it only takes 20 hours. But the difference between learning a skill and becoming a master
Yeah.
are extremely different. So basically, I look at it as it's very easy to learn something. And when the market goes up for 10 years straight, you can get a lot of false positives in there, as we did from 2008 to 2020 until this recent downturn that we had. And during that time, I mean, you could have bought anything and made money pretty much. Like, I don't care what your strategy is.
Yeah, you get
But
a
what
lot of
separates,
smart, successful investors when that happens.
yeah, but what separates the good investors from the world-class investors is how are you reacting now? Because we anticipate these downturns and we're watching them and we know when they happen, because they will happen and they will happen again. We know exactly what to do.
So how are you dealing with this whole coronavirus situation?
It's good. Obviously, we've pretty much, not just us, but everyone's lost their returns they've made the last couple of years. However, we did have a lot of cash on hand. So a lot of our clients had, 30 to 50% cash. And that allows us to buy more or talk to our clients and be like, hey, like, are you doing okay? Do you need any money? I mean, when you're talking with someone and you're like, you have $100,000 in cash that was unaffected by the stock market. I mean, I could have easily invested that and that could have cost them $30,000. Did I know the coronavirus was going to have this effect? No, I don't think anyone could have, without being an insider. However, when the market keeps hitting a lifetime high, a lifetime high, a lifetime high, you should start thinking it's like eventually what goes up must come down. I mean, it's basic science.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
it's
like, all right,
happened before too.
yeah, I mean, you sell a little bit, you sell a little bit, you sell a little bit, and then eventually it's like, all right, I have all this cash. There's always going to be opportunities, and the more cash that you have, the more opportunities that you can do on, versus you get a lot of millennials saying, buy the dip, do this, do that, sell this, sell that. And they're buying and selling and buying, selling, and it doesn't work.
So there's a lot of people.
Sorry about that. Had didn't silence my phone. Very unprofessional.
Oh,
Like,
shame.
yeah.
It's
How you know
okay.
I'm a real person? I make mistakes.
We can edit it out. So there's a lot of people right now, like, using coronavirus as an excuse for things. Like they might have, they've lost their jobs and now they got to move back in with their parents, or they, I don't know, their business is not doing well because the state has forced them to shut down. They're not an essential business, and it's like a lot of hardships. Maybe some people are getting sick and they're saying, "Oh, it's because of coronavirus." What are your thoughts about that, and like what's going on with this?
I mean, if you're running a business that has to be shut down and that's your only source of income, that just shows you why millionaires have 6, 7 income streams. They set themselves up to be successful no matter what's going on. So like,
Right.
I just watch what other people do that are older than me, and I just say, well, if it's worked for them, it should work for me. So I mean, personally, I mean, I've driven Uber to make some extra money.
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too. And Lyft.
you could literally download the app and start driving for Uber in a day and start
Right.
making money to get you through this time.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you drive Uber, you might meet someone that can connect you with someone to make to get a job.
Yeah. There's always a job to do. If it's not Uber or Lyft, it could be deliveries. It could be working. You could get a job at an essential business.
I mean, I at one point, to make extra money, applied to be a dishwasher. They never called me to interview because I was overqualified.
No, you're
But like, if you put
underqualified.
that energy out there to the world to like, hey, I'm willing to be a dishwasher to make this work,
Yeah.
then it'll work.
I think a lot of people, because they have degrees and they think like, oh, I need to have a certain quality of job or a certain tier or whatever it's called, caliber of job, then they're going to limit themselves to things that might, you know, either pay a certain amount or have a certain kind of um, sense of like notoriety. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I mean, I applied for a dishwashing job to make extra money. I applied for a job at Topgolf. I didn't get any of those jobs. They didn't hire me.
Oh,
Um,
that's okay, man.
but I looked at it as like I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
And there's a reason why I didn't get accepted to those jobs because it's just not what I'm supposed to be doing. And by putting out that energy that I will wash dishes to make my businesses successful, I feel like that says a lot. And you got to be willing to do whatever it takes when it comes to leaving corporate America to make a successful business work.
right. Yeah, you gotta have that attitude. I got a job as a hot dog vendor, and then I got fired before I even started the job. So I got fired from a hot dog vending position.
Hey, that's a fun fact. Like I've been fired from a hot dog vendor.
Yeah.
Like that's a good fun fact.
Before I even started, it didn't have a day on the job yet, and I got fired. But so you didn't do any of the dishwashing jobs or the other jobs that you said, right?
No, I didn't.
So
I
how did
wasn't
you
qualified.
so how did you end up like what did you do at that point? Because you're looking for jobs to, probably sustain yourself or your income. So what did you do instead?
So this was during when I left corporate America. I was at the first firm and I was looking to make extra money to survive because what I was doing wasn't working. And I realized I'm doing something I don't believe in, and that's why it's not working. So I left that job. I had equity in the firm, and I was able to negotiate a deal to have them buy me out. So they pay me every 3 months until October of 2020, a certain sum of money until I'm paid back in full. So I negotiated the deal that allows me to get some money coming back in towards me. Obviously, this is money that is mine, but I'm getting used to not getting paid and changing my mindset so that I can weather the storm much easier in the future.
Yeah. That was a big change for me as well, going from getting a steady paycheck every 2 weeks to having nothing come in ever until I did something about it.
Yeah, that's that's you could even do really well and still get nothing.
Yeah. What do your parents say about what you're doing?
Mm, my dad's about it. Um, he thinks I'm doing the right thing. Plus, I wouldn't listen to him anyway, even if he told me I was doing the wrong thing.
Right on.
As far as like my mother, we don't really have a relationship. The reason why is my parents were divorced, so growing up in a divorced family, money is always a big problem. And
Yeah.
I was in school and noticed money was missing from my bank account, and called my mom out about it. And she said, "You know how college kids are. I'm just saving it for you." And ended up never getting that money back. So at that point, trust had been completely lost. And then my stepfather passed away from cancer, and she basically like blamed all her money problems on him. And I'm just like, what kind of person blames money problems on someone who's not here to defend themselves? And that's
Right.
not a person I want to associate with, regardless of who they are.
Okay. So do you still have a relationship with your mother?
No, you got to be willing to cut people out, regardless of how much it hurts, if they're not bringing value to your life. Like
Amazing.
people cling on to their parents because their parents are willing to help them. But if you listen to Gary Vee, he's like, get off your fucking parents' payroll. Like, stop accepting money from them if you really want to be happy and like be self-dependent. Otherwise, when things go wrong, you have that safety net, which is
Right.
holding you back from taking those risks.
Right. You're not going to grow up. I notice a lot of people, especially when they move out of college and they start working, they say, "Oh, it's too expensive," especially in the Bay Area, right? They say, "Oh, it's too expensive to rent, and I want to save up money to buy a place, a house, so I'm going to live with my parents." And the parents let them. They say, "That's fine. Come live here and save money." My parents did that as well. They were like, that's okay, you can move back in. And I did for a while because I wanted to save money. But the problem is with doing that is that you don't grow up and you don't like learn to take responsibility for your own life, because you have this like, you're still a baby pretty much if you're living on somebody else's, living on someone else's money, not making it yourself. Then you're basically a baby. And I noticed that as soon as when I moved out and I said, I'm never going to move back in here, then that's when I started to grow.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Otherwise, you just end up in a world that you don't understand and expect government paychecks to bail you out of bad situations, where I just think of like there's more opportunities now than ever if you just are willing to
Yeah.
think differently.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. If you're living with your parents, you're on welfare. If you're depending on them for like life, then you're on welfare. It's no different from being like dependent on the government or getting unemployment or whatever have you. So how about with your father? You said that your father's about it. Like he's supportive. Like what does he think about what you're doing?
Um, I hear from him every now and then, but I wouldn't say like I need his approval. Like these are the decisions I'm gonna make regardless. Like if
Yeah.
I was to tell him everything that I've done, he'd probably say it's a bad idea.
Okay.
But if you want to change your path and create not just wealth for you, but wealth for generations, you're going to have to do things differently than your grandparents did or your parents did. Unless they're like super duper wealthy, then you may want to emulate them if their last name's like Rockefeller or something. But in order, I mean, it's like immigrants that come over here and people go to college for the first time. They're changing their whole family dynamic.
So what do you got to do differently than your parents?
You gotta not take corporate. You gotta take corporate jobs to start out with because you need to get the experience. And if I was to give advice to myself, I would tell myself to save up as much money as you can. And once you have enough money to last you 3 or 4 years, regardless if you make any money, take that chance. Start that business.
Okay.
Create that new venture because you have the security. Anything is going to work out eventually in 3 or 4 years if you have the right mindset and you put in the work. And you'll get used to watching your money go down in value over a period of time rather than most people just see their money go like real quickly because we don't have a lot of savings. So working a corporate job's good in the beginning. You get to learn what you don't like.
Yeah.
So you make sure you don't replicate that at a new company. And then once you have enough money, you're like, I'm out. And then you don't ever look back.
Wow, that advice that you just gave, it feels like that's exactly what I did. It's like you were talking to me 3 years ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that. But yeah, that's interesting, man. I really liked working. I not when I was there, but when I was working in corporate, I really liked it. I enjoyed myself a lot. But I didn't notice it. I didn't like kind of have that thought about it when I was there. But now looking back on it, I was like, wow, that was a really cool thing that I did. I had some really good experiences and I learned a lot. Like I learned a shit ton working for other companies, but I didn't have the right attitude about it. And I think that's what a lot of people who don't have the ability to leave like I did, they kind of get stuck in this like negative mode of thinking
Yeah, I mean, you
about I would
say to
rather
yourself,
be
how can I
somewhere
make this
else.
much money on my own? But you realize the goal is not to make as much money as you were making before. The goal is to do better.
Yeah.
And the goal shouldn't be just monetary, it needs to have purpose. behind it. And that's the whole point of everything I do. It has a purpose.
Bless you.
So thank you. So I mean, whether it's 369 Financial, standing for growth, family, philanthropy, you want to constantly be growing. You want to have a loving family. You want to be able to, in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, don't always give something back.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point is but when I can get people to buy into these ideas, regardless of the short-term challenges that we have, such as coronavirus in the investment world, we're setting up people to grow wealth that no one in their family's grown wealth like before. Because if you take advice from your parents and you invest the way they did, you should expect the same sort of results. And if you're cool with that, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with investing in that manner. But if you're looking to get to that top 1%, you got to start thinking like the top 1%, not just listening to people who are selling you books because that's their business.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's a lot of people out there that are just out to sell books.
Yeah, I can think of a few. Are you in the 1%?
Monetarily, no, but as an individual, yes. I don't know many people that can say that they've secured a trademark.
Yeah.
I mean, I own a house that's rented. It's 5 blocks from the beach. That's why I'm in this fancy apartment here, because I'm renting out my house and getting the cash flow. So I bought it 2013, so I've owned it for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started a blog. I've stuck with it. Not just to like list out everything I've accomplished with it. And I actually just heard last week my patent for a golf invention was accepted.
Right on. Congratulations.
Like, I don't know how many people can say they've accomplished what I've accomplished, but the terrible part is like not knowing what's going to happen, but that's by remaining present and focusing on your day-to-day activities. Eventually money just like starts. It's crazy. Like, money just shows up. Like, eventually I get a new client, like wasn't even trying. Like, money just like appears in my account when I need it. I obviously don't have the same amount of money in the bank that I did when I left corporate America 3 years ago. But if I never left corporate America, I wouldn't be here with you right now.
Right.
We would have never crossed paths.
Well, you might have, because it is Monday. It's a holiday, right? So
yeah, but I would have never been able to connect with you on LinkedIn because I work at a big corporation that doesn't allow you to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They have too many rules. So by leaving corporate America, it's allowed me to create a whole new world that wouldn't have existed if I didn't take that risk.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think kind of going back to the 1% discussion, I think being rich and poor has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has everything to do with your attitude and your mindset towards money. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, of course. It's a mindset. Like, you can go down to Miami, Florida, and there's people that appear rich that have poor attitudes. And then you have people that look poor, that are the happiest people they ever seen.
Yeah. Like, you can have a lot of money, like a lottery winner, and still be poor, I think. So it has nothing to do with money. At least that's what I
don't play the lottery.
That's what me neither, but sometimes I drive by the corner store and I think like, it'd be really cool if I won the lottery, if I bought a ticket and I won. I don't buy a ticket though. I never do.
Yeah, I look at
But
the
that
world
thought is
as
there.
I have a I have a higher chance of probability to make $100 million than to win
Yeah,
$100 million in the lottery.
yeah. I like your attitude, man. I really like your attitude. I wanna talk about one thing that's on a lot of people's minds, is debt. You have different views on debt than most like big financial advisors out there. You wrote an article about Dave Ramsey and how he thinks entrepreneurs are stupid idiots.
Yeah.
And debt was a pretty big portion of that article. You have quite a bit of debt. Uh, I mean, I think average, or more than average compared to most people. I think.
I believe
Um,
I have probably over $300,000 in debt.
I came from the camp that debt is horrible, is bad. You should avoid it like the plague. Never get it. So when I didn't take out any loans. The only thing that I took out was like that was of any big significance was a car loan, and I paid it off like super quick because I didn't want to pay any interest on it. But I've sort of come to see debt in a different way. Do you want to tell us like a little bit about your views on debt, your experience with it, and if it's a good thing, bad thing? Like, how should people think about debt?
Yeah, and obviously I'm not condoning that you should rack up your credit card, $100,000 in credit card debt, because credit cards have higher interest rates than Bernie Madoff even made for his clients, and he was a scam artist.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But essentially, debt has allowed me to get where I am today. Without borrowing money, I wouldn't have been able to pay for college. Without debt, I wouldn't own a $400,000 plus property that I'm renting out at the beach. Without debt, I wouldn't have been able to secure lines of business credits for, you know, $30,000 to form a partnership with a company in California to help me bring my invention to market. So debt, if used for the right reasons, such as building wealth in businesses, can be a powerful weapon. We're taught that mortgages are good. You put $20,000 down on a $200,000 house, you're leveraging your money about 10 to 1.
Yeah,
But when it comes to leveraging your assets in the stock market, it's bad. Isn't it the same thing if you think about it? But we're taught that risk is bad, but buying a home is good. But buying a home is still risky. But we're
yeah,
comfortable with it because you can drive down the street and lots of people own homes, but not lots of people are billionaires. So obviously my financial situation, probably most people wouldn't be able to handle. Um, I needed to use credit cards to make things happen. I've put the credit cards away and I'm paying them down.
yeah.
I'm able to make the payments. I got a business loan for 25,000. It allowed me to keep things moving because an object in motion stays in motion. So I found myself with a choice. I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, I can wait until I save up enough money to do this, or I can find a way to make the money appear so I can do this right now.
Okay,
And I chose to do it now because why not?
right on.
What's the worst thing that happens to me if I don't pay off my debt? I file bankruptcy. Is that like the
I
worst thing that would
guess
happen?
I don't know what happens.
I don't know. I haven't done it yet.
Credit
And I
score
don't plan
gets
I
shot.
don't plan on going down that road. I know that I'm going to be able to pay it off.
Yeah,
So it's giving me having a solid hope for the future is allowing me to take that risk now, knowing that in the end, if you really think about it, and this may be taken in the wrong way, is $50,000 a lot of money?
some would say yes, and others would say no.
When I look at it as like you can get one business deal that could pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like you're always one deal away from that happening. Some rich person can just come up to you and be like, "Hey, Arjun, I like you. I want to give you a contract for $200,000."
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, with one flip of the switch, all my debt's gone.
Yep.
Just like that.
Has that happened to you?
Not yet.
You think it will?
One day it'll happen. But right now, just focusing on one bite at a time. Like we connected on LinkedIn. I've set a goal for myself to connect with 15 people a day on LinkedIn. All I do is look at their profile, message them, just ask them how they've been doing with the coronavirus, just see if any dialogue starts. And you never know, they might have you on a video interview.
Yeah, that's how we connected. You messaged me and I replied. But I think not everybody replies. Some people don't.
Oh no, I mean, not everyone replies, but I'm looking at it as if they accept my connection, that's one extra dot I get to collect on LinkedIn. So I mean, if you do 15 a day over 365 days a year, and you do that every day, you can really build up a network fast. And as long as you're providing value, people will eventually reach out to me, not me reaching out to them.
Right. And that's what I like about in some of your posts and some of your videos, you say that, value should lead with value and then the money will come. I think a lot of people, and I had this mindset too. It was like, oh, I'm going to start a business and then offer services. And then people will just say, oh, hey, I need this. But I've realized that it's, kind of what you have come to realize, I think, is that you got to provide just a bunch of value up front and kind of build that repertoire of like including this thing that we're doing right now. We'll post it in different places and people can learn something maybe from it.
I mean, if 3 people view this and one of them finds this video helpful, that's all it's about. Because I mean, if you think about it, if we do one video a week, you and me, let's just say we do one video a week and only one person sees it, different person every week, that's 52 people.
Yeah.
And then eventually people will catch on and catch on and catch on.
Yeah.
Like obviously when people want to work with me, eventually I'm going to have to charge them money.
Right.
But the idea is I provide a free blog. I provide a free webinar. I provide all this for free. And then if you want to actually gain access to what I know that you're not going to know unless you talk with me, you're going to have to pay, because that's the only way people buy in, is by putting money into it. Like if I didn't have to pay to go to the gym, I may not go to the gym. And that's why Planet Fitness is so successful. They're like, it's only $10 a month. Yeah. So people are like, it's only $10 a month. Like, it's not a big deal. But if you get enough people to pay you $10, that's a lot of money.
It's a small amount that's kind of easy to forget about. And you have a gym membership, so you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I have actually have two gym memberships.
You have 2 gym memberships.
I do. I use them for different things. Like one of them's for like basketball and racquetball. The other's just to like work out. And it's good to diversify where you hang out, because if you hang out at the same places, you'll see the same people. But if you diversify where you're spending your time, you're going to open yourself up to more opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of time here, I want to end it. But do you want to tell about, do you want to plug anything?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to offer is I have a free webinar right now. It's called Which Money Mistakes Are Costing You? So I go over the truth about diversification, talk about insurance policies you don't need, go over these sort of secrets that people aren't putting out there. So that's definitely something I'm going to be doing every Thursday around 7:00 Eastern. It's free to attend. And I'm going to be doing it every single week. And if one person shows up, one person shows up. If no one shows up, then I get to practice my webinar. But I definitely see it being very eye-opening to help people get to where I am, which is a life of freedom, being able to think for myself and to know that I'm on the right path to be successful, because the elevator to success is broken and we got to take the stairs. And I'm on probably the third or fourth floor, and it just keeps going. I mean, no matter where you are, you got to keep climbing the stairs.
How many floors are there on the in the success building?
However many you want.
You can just keep
I
going.
mean, I feel like if you talk to most successful people, they never view themselves as successful. Like, why does Warren Buffett go to work? Because he likes it. It's not
Right. He obviously doesn't have to
not
make
about
money.
money. It's about just him doing what he wants.
Yeah. Okay. So how if somebody wants to get in touch with you, like how can they get in touch with you? How can they
Oh, you
chat
can
with
find me
you?
pretty much everywhere. Instagram, the Millennial Slacker, LinkedIn, just my name, Josh Krafchick. I mean, you can just Google Josh Krafchick and you can find me. I think it's funny people plug things nowadays because I'm like, if I really want to find you, I could find you without you telling me where you are.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I would say is check out the Which Money Mistakes Are Costing You webinar. If
Check
you
out the
don't like,
webinar.
Hmm?
I said check out the webinar.
Yeah, you should sign up. Maybe you should join too. Check it out.
Yeah, I should attend for that too. I want to
Um,
see. I'm curious.
so I'm gonna be doing it every week, and it's going over all sorts of things from the truth to diversification, buyer's remorse, pretty much like everything I had to find out on my own over the last 7 years, I can share with you in 30 minutes.
Wow.
So
That's valuable.
if you think about how much time I'm saving you just by the free webinar, it's catastrophic. Like it's going to get you way further. But if you're looking to get to the next level of the 1%, that's where you're going to have to like reach out. We'll schedule a free consultation where we can chat and then see if we want to work with each other from there.
Are there any like qualifications or minimum qualifications that somebody would need in order to work with you?
You just got to be willing to, you got to be coachable. You got to be able to trust someone. And so if you're coachable and you're trusting, um, I'm in the business of growing a business. So I'm not at liberties to make mistakes like large corporations that can just get fined $5 million and just say, oh, here you go.
Right. Settlement.
Yep. So
you can't do that. You're in debt. You got to make sure that everything you're saying is right and correct.
yeah,
Got to
I
go
got
through
to do a good
compliance.
job because I can't afford to do a bad job.
Right. Once you become a very big company, then you can afford to do a okay job.
Yeah, well, as we scale and grow, we'll have to figure out ways to not fall into the same trap as our predecessors.
Yeah, that's a good topic for. We'll save that for next time, man. How do you avoid becoming that stuff that you don't want to become?
You got to realize when you're becoming it and stop
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly. Thank you for being on the show, man. I appreciate it. This is the
Yeah,
first
thanks for having
episode.
me.
We'll see how it goes. It's going to be very. I had fun. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how long we've been on here, but I feel like we can do this all day, like 4 hours, like a Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I could. Actually, I went back. Something I like to do with people who are like really successful is go back to the first thing that they posted. So I went back to the first Joe Rogan podcast that he ever did, just to kind of see what it was like. And I thought,
Yeah,
wow,
how
this is
was
really
it?
cool. It's really cool. It's nice. I mean, the heart is there. The quality is like a little bit grainy and that kind of thing, but you could see like what the intention is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, having the right intention when you're doing something. Like money is the result. You
Yeah.
shouldn't just do something for money. Like you should, and that's what kids find out very quickly. Like you get a job, you work at a restaurant, you're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this, but I need money. And then you realize like, hey, like you got to do things that you like. And if you do things that you like, you'll be happy. And if you're happy, people will do business with you. And people do business with you, they'll just pay you.
That's something that I didn't learn for a very long time because I didn't have any kind of like shitty jobs like restaurant waiter, dishwasher, or hot dog vendor. or any of that kind
They
of stuff.
fired you. You weren't even good enough to be a hot dog vendor.
Yeah. But it took me a while to like realize that what you just said, right? And I think a lot of people don't get that because they get a good job out of college and they're like, okay, this is life. This is what it's supposed to be. And that becomes their shitty job, but they get paid so much that it's almost like a love-hate relationship or indentured servitude type of thing where they don't want to do it. They'd rather be doing something else, but they're gonna, they stay in it and they're just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get caught in these jobs and then you're there too long and then you realize there's no other opportunities for you.
Yeah. All right, Josh, thanks for being on the show. This was amazing. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
hope you
Thank
did
you
as
for
well.
having me. And when should we connect next?
Another week or so, I think.
Sounds good with me.
How did you like what feedback do you have?
I guess the biggest challenge is just making sure you bring that energy, just because you're soft-spoken by nature.
Yeah, I get told that a lot.
But you can form that energy through your words. Like, you don't have to be like loud and like yelling at people. But like when you say like, wow, like that was the same thing I went through, and like things like that, that helps like keeps people's attention. I'm also been told I have a very monotone voice. So I have to work on using verbs and action words to get people excited. But in the finance business, when I'm talking to someone like, yeah, the markets went down 30%, I'm not worried about it. That voice is what gives them that confidence that we're doing okay. Not like, oh my God, like the markets are going down, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm like, yeah, markets are down 30%. Nothing we can do about it. However, we have this cash here that we can start to deploy over time. We can take advantage of this downturn in the market and use it as an opportunity.
People say that that's like a calming thing when you're talking about it. It's like, yeah, okay, I feel better. I was all worried before, but now I talk to you, Josh, and I'm like, okay, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, emotion is not what you want when it comes to having heart surgery or dealing with your money. You just need to get the job done.
Yeah.
But I like the line of questioning. You have the questions prepared. You provided insight to yourself to build trust with the audience. So yeah, we'll just have to see what the final product looks like.
Yeah, I have a better idea now of like how to kind of structure it. I had like a million questions written down all over the piece of papers and all that kind of stuff. But like as we were talking, I didn't want to like try and read this and then look up here, and because I wanted to still pay attention to what you were saying. So I have a better idea of like how to structure it.
When are you thinking this will go live?
I'm going to start editing as soon as we get off of this thing. And then I'm thinking of also doing a couple other things like making little snippets and then put that into like different places.
I just run into the issue like doing the videos and editing them. I just don't have the time to do that right now. So I just like, fuck it. I'm just going to post the whole thing, put it out there.
That's all right. I got the time. All right, man. Thanks for being on. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Hit me up if you need something before then.
All right, we'll do. And that article is coming. I'm just a slacker, so it's taking a little bit.
We have this thing. We're like ready to grow and start getting more people. And we have all the pieces in place. It's just a matter of getting the message out there. All right, bro.
All right. See you later. Bye.